See this one here.
Can you say that?
I just kind of read it.
Check, check 1, 2.
Next,
I will
Hello?
see those.
can you hear me? Loud and clear?
I am testing mic number 6. Unity hoo hoo.
I am number 7.
Number 8, new home for Kyle Bush.
Filling in for Chair Brown, mic check.
Our chair was too busy. He had one of his minions do it.
Okay. I'd like to call this Newburgh School District Board meeting for September 13th, 2022. Call to order, and our first order of business is the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, sir. Well, welcome, everybody. It's our first time in nearly 2 years where we've had public at one of our meetings just because of COVID. And so I know we have lots to talk about tonight, so I'm just going to give you the quick rundown. But I'm going to read something first, since we haven't had public comments in a long time, just so everybody's aware of, how it goes. To make comment or present a topic during public comment, if the opportunity is available on the board agenda, please complete the intent to speak card and submit to the board secretary prior to the start of the meeting, which 4 of you did. Thank you very much. An individual that has submitted the intent to speak card has been invited to speak by the board chair will be allowed 2 minutes. Any person who is invited by the board chair to speak to the board during the meeting should state his/her name and address, and if speaking for an organization, the name of the organization. A spokesperson should also be designated to represent a group with a common purpose. Keep in mind that the reference to a specific employee or a group of employees is prohibited as follows. Speakers may offer objective criticism of district operations and programs. The board shall not hear comments regarding any individual district staff member. The chair shall direct the visitor to the procedures in the board policy KL public complaints for board consideration of a legitimate complaint involving a staff member. So basically tonight, after I do the review of the agenda, we'll go into public comments. I'll call you up. 2 minutes goes by pretty quick, but it goes by in a long time also. And so we'll step up to the podium, and at 90 seconds, I'll just say 30 seconds. Just try not to interrupt your flow there. And then just before the 2 minutes is up, I'll just say 5 seconds to wrap it up. Sometimes it goes quicker, sometimes it doesn't. So thanks again. I know it takes a lot of courage and energy to step up to a podium and speak. And so again, thank you for doing that. With that said, the agenda tonight shows that we have our public comments will be first, followed by SDA. We'll have two of their managers, Dee Dee and Kirk Wilkie, will come up and address from their standpoint our busing situation. After that, it will be board and superintendent comments, followed by the consent agenda, reports and presentations, old business, new business, future agenda items, and then we adjourn. So after public comments, you are free to go or stay, whatever you'd like to do. And you can stay all the way to the end of the meeting if you'd like to. So again, thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate it. If somebody is off color at all, I'll stop you. So again, try to stay on point to what you're trying to talk about tonight, and that would be awesome. So thank you very much. So first up in our public comments, I'm going to read that name, and if you have any questions when you come up, please ask. First person up is Angelia, and I said it's Jacobi, and she is going to be our first speaker. No problem.
My name is Angela, and my comment is I feel that you don't believe in diversity, and I am a diverse person, so it feels like you are erasing me because we can't pretend that we're all the same. I thought that schools were safe, but now people are having to leave schools when they should not have to. And they are doing it because the pride signs and the Black Lives Matter signs are getting taken down. It's not just making the parents upset, and it's also hurting me, and it makes my sister upset. She has to cry in her bed. think about everything I say, because you should know that even if it doesn't hurt you, it hurts others. So know what you're doing is wrong.
Thank you very much. Okay, our second speaker tonight is Judy Tokstad.
My comment's a little bit longer. My name is Judy Tokstad, pronouns she, her. Mine has to do with old business. So my first comment is on public comment. During the work session on 8/27, you, the board, discussed limiting public comments to current agenda items or requests for future agenda items. Moving forward with such a policy would essentially create a gag order. It does not allow for discussion on simple or controversial board topics. Limiting public comments, along with limiting media, implies we have an autocratic school board. Bringing the community together requires listening and discussing the tough stuff. I am part of a community of concerned parents and citizens and would like to bring my concerns to you as the governing body of my students' education. I ask that you please consider my comments in determining your action on this matter. Second is OAR 581-021-0587, 90, 92, and 96. Menstruation dignity for students. The law is based on 4 pillars: privacy, inclusivity, access, and education. During your work session, you spent time discussing this law, including who needs this product, and there being no science behind the age of menstruation. The science is human anatomy and biology. There are pediatric endocrinologists who study this science and apply their knowledge to treating patients, including those who have early onset puberty. Who needs the products and who does not is clearly not within your scope as board members. How to provide access does fall within your scope. The board member who commented on a student's ability to carry a quarter does not understand menstruation dignity. And I would ask that you consider those comments when considering menstruation dignity. There are issues that are private. There are issues that you did mention the more maintenance in the bathroom. We had incidents at Cheyenne Valley Middle School today. Bathroom vandalization in the boys' bathroom. It's a behavior problem. It's not a pads and tampon problem. We have behavior problems. 48% of the bullying done in the bathroom. Drug use done in the bathroom. Vandalism done in the bathroom. That is a bigger issue. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, our third speaker of tonight is Carly Barnett.
Hello, thank you, board, for having us back in the building. It's wonderful to be in the building. My name is Carly Barnett, and I have 2 daughters in kindergarten at Edwards Elementary School. And it is known that we've had decades of experience leave our district. Decades of experience of teachers, staff, custodians that have been within the buildings who have left, Specifically, looking at Sherwood, Sherwood has currently 8 openings in their entire school district. McMinnville has 16. Newburgh has 55 openings, 55. Specifically, at Edwards, there's 1 posting for teachers, and it simply says multiple. SPED education assistants, it says multiple. One of the listings says at least 7 positions. Counselors, there are 2 positions open for counselors. And there's even more with custodial staff and so forth. And I have a couple questions for the board is, how are SPED students receiving the mandated assistance? That is mandated by the government that these students need to have specific hours for their special education needs. How many counselors are currently in Edwards? If there's 2 openings, how many counselors are currently assisting our students at Edwards. And what is being done to bring back the experience that we so desperately want to keep and bring into our community. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you very much. Okay, our fourth speaker is Dwayne Dorian.
Thank you, board members. Thank you, general public. Boy, it's tough being a board member. Well, I just wanted to bring to light again, and I just wanted to ask what the latest line is on the STA. I understand they're going to be here talking. I understand they also have written a letter addressing some of the service issues and stuff like that. So I wait anxiously to hear from them. Some things still persist. So I think maybe I'll wait to hear from them and maybe find out what they're doing to shore things up since the letter was last written. So really basically just wanting to learn what the latest line is on that. So I'll go ahead and take a seat and hear what they have to say.
Great, thank you very much. Just so everybody knows, the board doesn't comment back on individual people. It's kind of awkward. I get it. You know, people take the courage to come up and stand at the mic and say something. It's our time to listen, and but we do listen to all your comments, and it'll be brought back up. You may get a call. If you spoke tonight, you'll definitely get an email. So I hope that makes sense to you, that we don't just start talking right back and answering the question right off the bat, if that makes sense. So with that said, then we will invite STA up. We have Kirk Wilkie and Dee Dee, if you'd like to come up to the mic, and we'll welcome you guys here. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Phillips, Chairman Brown, members of the board. My name is Kirk Wilkie, Senior Vice President with STA over our Central and West Region operations. I guess I'd like to start, as I did last week, with an apology to the district and the community. We certainly haven't met the expectations that you have of us as a service provider, and we haven't met our own expectations. I do want to assure you that we are committing the resources to correct this. I know it's not moving as fast as everyone would like, myself included. But we have taken a lot of steps and we have made a lot of improvements. But we still have a ways to go, and happy to talk through that tonight. In addition to Dee Dee McNair, who's our Oregon area general manager over our operations in the state of Oregon, we've got Wendy Stevens with us, who is our location manager here in Newburgh. And I obviously, depending on the questions and comments and things that we're asked to respond to, Wendy may have more detailed information, so we've asked her to join us. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have if you'd like in terms of our progress. You know, we started last week with, 350 or 400 unrouted students. By the weekend, we were down to 15. Obviously, adding that many students impacts the route times. And so yesterday was a little bit of a bumpy day with those changes just being implemented yesterday. Today was a little bit better. But again, we still, you know, I'm not trying in any way to make light of where we are. We do have work to do, and we do have adjustments to continue to make. I know a priority is the special needs population. And I think our team here can confirm to you that Dr. Stevens, I know we got a couple of pieces of information late this afternoon, and all of those students are being routed. Doesn't mean they'll have transportation tomorrow. We do have them transferred to a subcontractor and are working with them to get those kids routed. I think another obvious thing that's going to take a little bit of time is the driver shortage. We just today upped our bonuses from 3,500 for a certified driver to 5,000, and an unlicensed driver from 2,000 to 2,500, and we've increased our employee referral bonuses to 1,000 from 500. So we're looking for the right solutions. employment is a challenge, certainly for school operations nationally. Obviously, the districts around the country have other staffing challenges as well. And certainly we're in that same boat. Nationally, we're down 5 to 15% in our driver workforces, which is pretty well in line with, what other people are experiencing. So the shortage just dictates that we have to be as efficient as we possibly can be. Hopefully in that there's a silver lining for the district and the community, and that I think we will be successful in identifying a number of efficiencies that long-term will help with cost control for the district. I think that's good for the district, good for the community. It's good for us, given the labor market challenges that we face and expect to continue to face. I think those things are all parties are aligned that efficiency is going to be necessary. So with that, I'm happy to, respond to any questions you may have. I'm not sure if we can do that in this format, Chairman Brown, but.
Well, I guess as board chair, what I'd like, we've had lots of comments from the public, and rightfully so. I mean, there's a lot of people that are upset. We've all been parents or are currently, and I think that especially the people here tonight, we're not talking about football or books. We're talking about our kids, and I think that there's people in a room that more than anything they want tonight, I mean, upset or not, they want to hear maybe some of the things you're doing moving forward to correct some of the mistakes. And just being real clear about that before they leave tonight, so they can go home and at least say, okay, this is what you guys said you're going to do. And I appreciate you getting up. I know it's tough. I've been part of the district for a long time. Been a lot, buses break down I-5. I get all that, but we still have parents today that, aren't getting the service they want. So I think what they want to hear is, what are you going to do to be better? I think that's what the people in the audience, I'm just guessing.
Sure. So again, there are a lot of components of what we're trying to do. The long-term solutions are to add staff, add drivers. That's really, kind of two critical pieces, right? The complaints we're dealing with. By adding drivers, we can get the buses timely on all tiers, right? First tier in the morning, second tier in the morning, first tier in the afternoon, second tier in the afternoon. Right now, we're squeezing the system based on the resources that we have, the driver resources that we have. And so even if we can transport all the kids, and I'll speak to that in just a minute, we're still going to have difficulty being on time. We can move times earlier in the morning, and we'll do that. I think we've talked with the district about possible options to allow that to happen, even if by only 10 minutes. By doing that, we can get the kids in that second tier on time. And so at least the minutes of education during the day will be fulfilled on schedule. So we're working to continue to adjust routes as we find additional efficiencies to get the kids in the buildings, both tiers, in the morning. And in doing that, we would expect that we would have, an on-time second tier in the afternoon, or I'm sorry, first tier in the afternoon, but we're still going to struggle a little bit with that second tier, getting the middle school and high schoolers home. But our first priority has been to say, can we get all the kids in the building for the classroom instruction time, that, and meal time and so forth, right? We want to have the kids in the building as a priority for that entire day. And that's whether it's general education or special education. Either way, we want that solved as a priority. It would certainly help if we can adjust bell times slightly in the morning, or at least arrival times, not even bell times, just acceptance times for kids off the bus. And we're talking with the district about that. I think getting the timeliness of the routes that we do have is priority number one now. We are down to, the periodic day-to-day issues of, adding kids and then not getting a route by there in a timely fashion because it's a new stop. Those things are going to continue to happen over the next several days, but they will mitigate over the next several days as well. It's important to understand that. I think our second issue in that service model, where we're still going to be short drivers, is that we want to provide consistency. So same drivers, same buses every day, and getting the drivers and the students to know each other. That's important, making sure that the buses are on time, and then monitoring our load counts on the buses, because when we're adding that many students with restricted resources, We want to be sure that we aren't overloading the bus. And I think importantly, overloading is a technical definition. Bus capacity has a lot to do with age, size, and the aisle of the bus from front to back. Bus capacities may be 72 kids, it may be 84 kids, it may be 20 kids, depending on the bus size. But there's more to it than just what's the capacity, what's the load environment, and we want to monitor that and fix any of those problems that we have. We still have capacity in the system. Some of the buses have relatively light loads still. It's just a matter of trying to, balance those kids across those routes. And in some cases that's easy to do because they're all heading off in the same general geographic direction. In some cases, it's impossible to do. And when we find those situations, we have to try and add routes. And I don't want to stand up here and say that we're going to have 10 drivers next week because we're not. We do have drivers in training. We have 4 or 5 drivers in training right now. We think and we expect that 2 of those will be certified by ODE next week, by midweek. And as we do that and hang on to the people that we have, we begin to alleviate those pressure points. And that will result in improved service, for the community and for the district and improved timelines. So those are the primary focal points operationally. I know that parents are asking and concerned about what about the software application that allows them through the apps to track the bus. We are working with our third-party vendor. That product is used around the country. They are struggling with some glitches as the school year has gotten underway this year. We're experiencing some of the same problems in other districts where we've used that software application. I don't expect that it's a major problem, but they haven't turned that feature completely active because of that situation. And I can't get any more detailed than that, but I will get you some additional information on that as we get it from the vendor. But we've got software issues elsewhere, but we haven't been able to turn that feature on. It's not unique. It's not unique to Newburgh, but we are still getting information from the vendor on what that's about. So we hope to be able to turn that on and have that be visible to parents very soon. And that should help too, at least in terms of getting information out to them. But we're struggling with that.
I have
right
one
now.
more before I open up to the board, Dr. Phillips. I would say too, the frustration I've seen is communication.
Mhm.
And I think that's always a difficult one. First part of the school year is crazy for every single teacher, parent, everybody's trying to figure out a new year. So I don't have an answer for you on that one, but I'll volunteer to come down there and answer phones. Whatever it takes to help the parents out to get better communication. I think they just want to know, they need to know what's up, even when things are a little bumpy. And so however to prove that, to our parents of Newburgh and Dundee, that at least a lot of emails I saw, that was one of the bigger frustrations. So,
yeah. And I guess just to address that also, we did have a meeting today with our team. We've communicated with the district that a couple of different asks on our part for communication to come where possible via text, because just as you're mentioning, the phone environment, particularly during route time between the radio for the drivers, the phone, and then if we're on the phone, right, on a phone with a parent or somebody, it can be difficult to get to everybody. So we've asked that we get text messages for the urgent issues, because we can respond to those. Somebody's away from their desk and maybe doesn't have their email right handy, but a text message they can get. We've also been talking about how we can improve communications out and just working with our staff to say, look, when these events, because there's a commonality to them, when these events happen, whether it's a late bus or we've missed a kid and we're going to have to go back and get them and we're going to be late to the school, those common type events, we know that, look, there's 3 types of communication or 3-way communication that has to take place. And we've met with our staff about that. And I think you'll see improvements in that as well. But I agree with you. That certainly has been a frustration. A little bit of good news on that front is that the volume of calls we're intaking is going down. Now, doesn't mean things are fixed, far from it. And I want to be clear about that, but we are seeing a decline, and we're working through a backlog of complaints, and we're trying to be more timely with, real-time resolution each day. So very much aware of that concern and working on it.
Well, I'm gonna ask Dr. Phillips and then maybe first and then the board if they have questions, that they'd like to bring up. So,
Well, first of all, thanks for being here.
Sure.
Chair Brown actually hit the big one that I wanted to talk about, and that's just communication. When when a child is supposed to be picked up at 7:30 and it's 7:35 and 7:40 and 7:45 and mom and dad are waiting in the driveway to get to work and they don't know what to do. That's disappointing. Also, maybe even worse is at the end of the day, when the child's supposed to be home by 4 and it's 4:15, 4:20, 4:30, and they know nothing, they start to panic a little bit, which I have kids of my own. I get that. So the communication, I really think we could do better on. Then I just have to call out, I fully understand in every district, whether we owned our own buses or whether we use First Student or STA, the first day in any system is bumpy. I've talked to soups in the area and they said, yeah, we've had the same bus company or we own our own buses. And yeah, our first day was bumpy. We went beyond that, obviously. We're into the second week and it's been a very bumpy ride. So I'm encouraged by the steps you're taking. I hope it works as you do. So I'll leave that at that. One last thing is I think our building secretaries really need some kudos. They went above and beyond trying to help. And it's hard to help when you really don't have any answers. I don't know how many emails I've written or phone calls I've taken where I've apologized. And then I said, and I'm sorry, I know nothing. I can't really help you. And the helpless feeling that I've had, that Tabitha has had, that our secretaries have had, that's the killer. It's the helplessness. So once again, our building secretaries and our building leaders that have really neglected their own jobs and neglected building relationships with kids and staff because of this, it's been a real rough start of the year. And because of the past, whether it's COVID or whether it's political upheaval in Newburgh, I was really hoping for a great start of the year. And we didn't get it. So hopefully we can have a great start of the third week since we're already in the second week. So thank you.
And to echo what you said, Dr. Phillips, and certainly the district staff has been great to work with. And I want to be clear about that. They really have been. They've been responsive. They've been supportive. Tabitha's communications have been timely. We're working to accelerate our ability to respond to those with real solutions. But to your point, district staff has been fabulous to work with.
Yeah.
And we appreciate that support. We understand where this, where the shortcoming is, and we're going to fix it. It's not going to get fixed as fast as everybody wants. And a significant part of that is a labor shortage. But we can make a lot of positive improvements in the system we have today. And do that fairly quickly. And that's what our primary focus is as we continue to look at the long term and deliver, all of the expectations. And with the district support, I know we'll get there.
And I also failed to mention Laura at our front desk. She's been a big help. And we hear you in regards to labor shortages. As Carly pointed out, we've got our own issues. So I understand that.
Yeah. Anybody else on the board have a question?
It has to do with implementation of a new system, and I just wanted you to talk a little bit about what has been your company's experience when winning a new contract. What are the steps to get into a new district, and talk a little bit about how it has been here in Newburgh. I mean, my understanding is that you didn't start on the day of the school, right? That there was steps that were taken before, or maybe as soon as you were awarded the contract. And if you could compare to other, and I understand that there is a labor shortage, I want to acknowledge that. But I guess to explain to us all, how is it that there was so much to be done on the day of?
Yeah, so it's a fair question. I think, look, again, full ownership, we didn't get far enough ahead of things early enough on. One of the challenges we faced, and I've seen it, put out there in various comments, the process that was gone through, I don't think was, at least from our perspective, from STA's perspective, the process that Newburgh went through to bid a transportation contract, make a selection and award a contract. Other than there was a protest here that it would, it isn't typical at all. But that aside, I don't think the process was any different, at least from our perspective, than anywhere else. Was it later in the year? Maybe a little bit, but not significantly. The protest drove it later. But again, those are not failure points. So where I think, some of the operational realities that were different is that buses came in later, right? Manufacturers don't deliver timely also because of supply chain problems. We took over the facility on August 1st, which typically a contract's ends in our industry. More frequently on June 30th, we take over a facility July 1. So those are what I would call, differences, but not the cause of this. Okay. And I want to be clear about that. No, that's not the cause of this. Those are just differences. So the timeline was shorter in the end for a variety of factors, but those are not the factors that are causing difficulties. Okay. The buses are here. They're all certified and legal to operate. The facility is, open. It's not as organized as we'd like it to be, but it's open and fully functional. So those are differences, but not cause. Cause goes to, the routing work that had to be done given the limited resources. Okay, so we are rerouting the district based on limited resources. I think there's efficiencies that are going to come out of that, as I mentioned earlier. But that probably, that combined with the shortage of drivers are really the two flies in the ointment, so to speak, that have really created a challenge here for us. And the good news, again, we won't have these problems going forward. Okay, next August and September, these issues will be behind us. We'll have control of that information and we'll know the community, the district, and the geography. So we'll learn all that and benefit from it in the future. But those were really the two pieces that it takes a lot of work and a lot of technical expertise to do that. And we didn't get ahead of it fast enough. And we're making up for those problems today. I think we've made a lot of progress, a lot more than is visible. And I think over the next several days, you begin to see stability in the system. As I said, I don't want to stand up here and tell you that the shortage can be solved quickly on the staffing. That's the long-term solution here. We've had questions about what if you can't get drivers? Well, nationally, I can give you a list of 4 or 5 things that our district partners have done. Other contractor district partners have done as well. School districts that run their own system have done to address labor shortage problems, not unlike maybe what has to be done in the school buildings themselves. Bell time adjustments, drop-off time adjustments at the buildings in the morning, things like that are being implemented all over the country. We're going to try and see if we can get there without doing that. But if the labor shortage doesn't resolve, I think those kinds of things come into play down the road. But we're going to get as lean as we can, as quickly as we can.
Thank you.
Sure.
I've read that some of the districts throughout the country have a program where due to labor shortages, the same problems. So what they're doing is they're giving credits to parents who want to drive their children. They're giving gas credits.
Okay.
and then, or some money back to maybe get Lyft drivers. But that's something that could happen quickly and could start right away. Because the driver shortage, that's going to go on a long time. So have you thought of doing that?
Yeah, a form of that is going on. There's a subcontractor that's helping already here in Newburgh that is working with us and taking on students, individual student riders, whether it be a special needs student or potentially a student that's in a geographic part of the district that's just hard to get to
Yeah.
in a timely fashion.
Right.
A McKinney-Vento student maybe from another district or that lives in another district. So we're already doing some of that.
Can we expand that? So
We've
Okay.
been adding kids to them literally each day. So we sent them over another half a dozen kids today. And so, but they have a limitation also, right? So they may not be able to respond that day or even for a few days in terms
what
of.
about to the parents then?
So that typically, at least speaking for us, typically that is an arrangement made with the district where if some districts, not very many nationally that I know of, have gone that route, but some have.
Mhm.
And that's been a district decision between, the families and the parents. We have not, STA as a company, been part of those decisions anywhere that we operate, at least in the Central and West. I can't speak to the East, but that's just not something that we've done. There are very few districts that we work with that do what you're talking about, where there'd be like a stipend, a daily,
Yeah, the ones that live way out.
almost like a
and- yeah.
mileage reimbursement. But we haven't done that with the families. There are a few districts who have made those arrangements directly with families.
I got a few questions.
Mhm.
Our past board meeting, when we voted this in, Nikki informed us that the first student drivers could continue on and that they wouldn't be affected. So I'd like to know about that situation, like why aren't the first student drivers continuing on? And obviously they were affected. Also, I want to know like how long kids are, if it's in the contract of like how long kids are actually supposed to be on the bus. I think there's a timely manner of how long they're actually supposed to be on the bus. And if you guys are fulfilling that, also, when you're interviewing drivers or whatever, do you have meetings on how the drivers respond to children? Because I've been hearing a lot about how drivers are yelling at the kids and not treating the kids very well. And then they're asking little kids like kindergarten, first grade, second grade kids, like, tell me where you live when I get up to your house and stuff like that. These are just little kids. They shouldn't have to be, the bus driver should know where these kids live and where they need to drop off. It's not the kid's responsibility to just say, hey, this is where I live. And all of these little kids don't even know. And some of these kids don't speak English and or have special needs and stuff. So those are some of my questions that I have.
So I'm gonna let Dee Dee and Wendy comment specifically. I think we probably can be responsive to most of those questions with just some facts in terms of the processes we went through. But I'm going to ask Wendy or Dee Dee to address, what happened to the first student drivers. What I can tell you as a kickoff to this is that we opened the doors. We had multiple open houses. We invited them repeatedly to come to work, and those that wanted to were offered jobs. There's probably more to the details of maybe why they didn't. But I just asked them to address, they may be closer to to what their opinions are of what, why those drivers didn't come. We probably have some pretty good ideas, but I'll let them maybe address what they're actually hearing.
Sure. So I'm Dee Dee McNair. Thanks for having us. The drivers that came from First Student, we offered them houses. We did a breakfast here in town to get to know them and said, anybody that wants to apply, please do. We currently have, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Wendy, 16 drivers that came over from First Student that are still employed here in Newburgh for us. They are, I have to tell you, they have been troopers the last week and a half. They are amazing. And I know why you would ask about them, because they're wonderful. Your second question was, I'm sorry.
How many kids are supposed to be, or how long
How
are the
long?
kids
That's
supposed to be
right,
on the
that's
bus?
right.
And I
So-
think there's a lot, I've been hearing too, there's a lot of kids that are crammed onto a bus too.
Mhm.
And I didn't know what the protocol was at, like what's the limit of how many kids are supposed to be on the bus?
Perfect. So in Newburgh, the high school, middle school kids are allowed to be on the bus for 75 minutes and elementary kids for 60. That's the limit. It's a long time. Yeah, but it's fairly typical out in rural areas because it takes so long to get clear out. You know, if it takes 30 minutes in your car, it's going to be an hour in a bus. So and then as far as capacity goes, it's difficult because, as Kirk indicated, you know, it kind of depends on the size of the students. Most of the buses hold more students than people think they do. For example, most of them that you see running around town hold at least 72. 3 to a seat is acceptable in the state of Oregon. School buses are crash tested with that many, you know, dummies in the seats, you know, and that's what they say we can put in them. So it's not always comfortable, and the kids don't like it because they like their space, as any of us do. But, you know, with the shortage, you know, what we would like to do in 2 buses, we're having to do with 1. Anytime that a bus is overloaded, they do call into the office. We have had this happen. We tell them to stop picking up kids, and we divert another bus over to pick up the remainder of their students. We do not ask them to overload them. So.
Oh, and then what about the how they treat the kids?
We do put them through what we call student management training when they first hire on. And the truth of the matter is, when you sit down for 45 minutes with somebody and try to get to know them, usually we all put on our best face for an interview, and you don't always know what you're getting until it's too late. It has also been my experience that sometimes when a bus is loud, you can often feel like you're being yelled at when the driver raises their voice so you can hear them. You know, that's not always the case, but it does happen. But they go through extensive student management class before they're ever allowed to interact with the students.
As far as relying on the students to tell them where to get off.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
and that's not typical. That's each driver has a set of directions that is turn by turn, and we can add to it even, you know, blue house. You know, we can add descriptions in there. So I'm not sure why they would ask. Unless, you know, there was no address and they were looking at 3 houses and saying it's got to be one of these.
Well, this was a teacher that was putting her students on the bus, and then heard the bus driver said, okay, now you guys need to tell me where you live and yell really loud when we get to your house so I can drop you off. And she goes, these are little kids.
Yeah, they weren't able to tell the driver. where they
Yeah.
lived.
And so she brought that to my attention.
Yes.
I'm like, that is not good.
Yes, the best they can do is I live in the blue house,
Yeah.
if you're lucky. Yeah, so I can't see the purpose in asking them.
Yeah.
Thank you, Director Dara.
Yeah, well, certainly thanks for coming in. I know the community at large, you know, wants answers to this. You know, when any crisis like this happens, you know, first and foremost, safety's got to come first. And I know that there's some people out there with safety concerns, not just with overcrowding, but picking up, dropping off, kids left behind. So I think that that's obviously got to be addressed first. And optics are a huge part of this, right? And that's where communication, frequent, constant communication comes in. I understand the driver shortage issue. But I've talked to Dr. Phillips and Chair Brown about this. I'm going to be pushing for a full investigation. I want to know timeline of what was known when. I hear software glitches. The community needs to know, needs to have answers to how this happened and how we're going to prevent it in the future. We need to know root cause corrective actions. And I know that's not the time right now, but it needs to happen expediently as soon as this is the crisis is addressed. And I would encourage employees in the know to be documenting what they know and when they knew it. To me, we should have known early on which students were going to be riding the bus, what their addresses were, what their names were, at a very minimum. And then as you made up schedules and zones and routes, there should have been, knowing that this was your first contract, your first year here. To me, you should have had a redundant system in place. You should have had maybe extra staffing as support leading up to this. Now, I have asked the questions, did you go on dry runs and anything like that? Dry runs only do so much good if you don't know, if your system's broken and you don't know what stops and how many children you're picking up. So, Dr. Phillips, I would just ask that, we have a full investigation, not just with STA, but it's got to be collaborative. To make sure we get the right answers at the processes. We know what processes were broken, so we can fix them, which processes we didn't follow. And that needs to be clearly communicated in a timely manner to the community. So will you guys be doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I think that's off to the board. I was something we haven't done before, but I'm going to come back to Dwayne Duran. You had possibly said you want to hear what they had to say. Do you have any more questions from your?
Yes, thank you so much. So I don't know what I can only imagine if we roll out our own new software. Imagine that there takes some getting used to the software. Not everybody knows how to use it well. I don't know if that's the case. I'm just assuming there's going with this software. And then I don't know what types of fields are in the software. For example, does it address overcrowdedness on the bus? We like doing student counts and stuff like that. And tell that on the software. The last question I have is this software something that parents can access? I mean, we talked about communication and stuff like that. That's been the biggest thing. There's been no communication. And, beginning of the year started, when we were all told, hey, this is going to be a little herky jerky, you might want to take your kids to school this first couple of weeks, we would have done that because we love our kids. But we didn't know anything. And I'm probably not the only one that, has already set up alternative plans, to as stopgap measures if something like this continues to persist. We're not going to have that, and, I don't know where STA is from, but I think in Oregon, we have a certain expectation of bus systems, just basic stuff. Like, the kid doesn't get dropped off anywhere in between. They get dropped off at school or at home. Dropping them off and having them wait for another bus is not okay. Ever. So anyway, that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, by the way, appreciate that. Back to everybody's comments. I hope some of the questions were answered. Appreciate you guys coming in to the board. I know it's a tough meeting. I know there were some tough questions. We wish you a lot of success tomorrow and moving forward. But I think, again, that communication thing, I think everybody's sitting in the room to my right. It's the kids, and then after that, just communicate, really well, starting tonight, tomorrow, so our parents can, start getting out. I would say to the audience here tonight, your friends, in a very nice way, go ahead and write an email again and again, until we can get past some of these things. Doesn't have to be a real long letter. It just Dwayne, I appreciate you, just right to the point, get it done. I think that same thing from you as a parent, please take that time and give them the feedback that they need. So appreciate you guys coming in. Thank you very much. Well, again, it's the first time in a couple of years. So out there in the audience, we appreciate you guys. But we're going to move on into our regular part of our meeting here. We haven't done this for a long time either. We have board and superintendent comments before we get into our regular business meeting. So if you want to stay, you're more than welcome. Sorry, there's no popcorn or anything like that, but we will be here for a little while longer. And so I'm going to start with board comments, and I'm going to start to my left with Director Yar.
Yeah, I'll just echo what Chair Brown said, and it's kind of refreshing having you all here. So I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule and coming in here to be a part of the process. I'll start with saying that. Obviously this has been a tumultuous, week and a half with.
Sorry.
The police officer just gave me a note. If anyone has a gray 2021 Chevy Equinox, it's blocking a driveway across the street. So if that's your car, you might want to go move it, or they might tow you. Sorry, Trevor.
Yeah, no problem. So I forgot where I left off now. Thanks.
It was a public safety.
Yes, yeah. Anyhow, I would just say this, with this tumultuous 2 weeks and the crisis going on with the busing system, that's a given. And we heard from STA representatives tonight. But beyond that, I would just like to do a shout out to the employees, really going above and beyond given this crisis and stepping up to the plate. There's been a lot of great things going on. The first week of school is always a little bit tougher until we get things ironed out and get into a standard operating routine. So just a big shout out to all the employees of the district for the great work that they're doing. I guess to shout out to the high school football team for their first win this last Friday. My exchange student from Spain, that was her first football game. She had a wonderful time there. So that's all I've got.
Thank you very much. Director Perugino.
I will also thank everyone for coming and being here and taking your time to participate in this meeting and for your comments. I appreciate that. Also, a big shout out to all district employees who have been really working so hard to try to, have a good start of the year. And despite all these challenges, have been just going along to give the best to our kids. I will second the football game. Kudos. Also, I have an exchange student who also went to her first American football game, and very happy to see that happening. And I will continue to monitor and kind of keep an eye out for what's going on and try to be helpful where I can to with this bus situation so that it gets resolved and so that everyone can be taken to school on time and without any challenges and mainly safely. So that's what we all want. Thank you.
Director Powell.
Yes, I just wanted to thank everybody as well for coming in tonight, and that I am sorry for all that you and your families have gone through and some are still going through. And wanted to say a big thank you for Steve and Scott, Tabitha, and all the staff and teachers and principals that pulled together to help last week. Even though it was a crazy time, people came together and helped each other. And I thought that was just really great to see how everyone just kind of pulled together. And really quick on a different note, it's been great getting to know some of the new teachers and staff and being able to serve at some of the schools. I've really enjoyed doing that. Get to know people, so.
Great, thank you. Director Riley.
Well, I want to thank everybody for not only showing up, but being kind to those of us that were in our first real live meeting. Seeing emails and some of the things that were on Facebook, it almost had a feeling of stepping into a lion's den. And you people were kind and orderly, and that's nice to see. I'm glad we can do this with great civility. And I'd like to shout out for the Oregon State Beavers for 2 football wins. Sorry. And as a PS, I grew up on Parrot Mountain, rode the buses from up there for 10 years in a day where we seemingly had snow every winter, and we had all sorts of things to overcome. So I get this thing of being on the bus for seemingly forever as a kid.
Thank you very much. Director Cole.
First of all, thank you for being here and being so polite and being good listeners. We really do appreciate that. Also, I want to give a shout out to the staff, the teachers, principals, for making the kids feel welcome in their first days of school. They really went the extra mile. You know, it's hard to do it with all the problems with the buses, but in particular, I want to mention Ashley Lee, principal of Joan Austin Elementary School. I had a family that it's been homeschooling their little girl because they were afraid to bring her, and she came another year and she didn't have a great experience her first day, and so they were very apprehensive, but they brought her. And Ashley Lee, the principal, they said she was out there smiling, greeting all the kids as they came in. And her teacher, Jeannie Buck, was just wonderful. And as a result, the little girl said, "Oh, I had a wonderful first day," and she's all excited, and the parents were smiling. And so it really made a difference. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Dr. Shannon.
I just want to echo everyone's sentiments. Thank you all for being here. It's great to have people in the building with us again. It feels a little more like a community organization when the community's here. So that's nice. And I do want to echo how sorry I am for how things went this last couple of weeks with the buses. It's unacceptable and we need to fix it. So thank you.
Thank you. Just like to say thanks to Angelina, Judy, Carly, and Dwayne for speaking. It's great to have people, live instead of just having one of our staff members reading comments. Takes a lot of courage to get up and talk to the mic like that. So again, appreciate that. I just want to clear something up from our last, it really wasn't a board meeting, it was a retreat. And we got a couple of comments. I just want people to understand. It was kind of a training session, and somebody called in about IEPs, which is an individual educational plan. We were going through training for our board, and I asked, as an example of this, to have our Director of Human Resources, Scott, just explain that because he's a longtime educator. And so I got to be part of lots and lots of IEPs in all my time at the school district. Like in anything, we have different letters that stand for things. So, a 504 is a modified, IEP. Then you have SPED, STEM, ARD, AP, Advanced Placement, for example, ACT, American Collegiate Test. We have all these terms. ODE stands for Oregon Department of Education, NEA, Newburgh Educational Association, OSAA, Oregon State Athletic Association, OSBA, Oregon State School Board Association. So we have all these letters and very aware of what all those stand for. It's kind of like the NFL, the NBA, and USTA, sports things. So just want to make sure everybody knows, are aware of those terms. And there was another comment about, maybe people on the board are a little older, which is true. I looked all this up, and people on the board do get a little older. Sorry, Brian. But typically it's people that have raised their kids and have gone through. So I went through and did a survey on our board with our spouses and or children or grandchildren. And it was kind of funny because we actually really totaled 185 years attending Newburgh Public Schools. We also had 20 full-time working years in the schools, 43 seasons of paid coaching, and then the endless nights of grad nights, fundraisers, lion walks, dolphin dashes, PTA meetings, Night of the Notables, outdoor schools, band nights, plays, FFA, that we all got to participate in. Oh my goodness, I think I did 15 straight grad nights that were a blast. So I think just so people understand, we have been in the district for a long time and attended almost all schools except for our new schools, Joanne Austin and which are there elementary?
Antonia Crater.
Antonia Crater, yeah. I mean, other than that, we were at all those schools, attended all those, including the schools that are tore down, Reading Middle School and Central Grade School. So I just want to clarify that it was just a training exercise, and so we're quite aware of what IEP, for example, is. A student just needs special needs and help in that area, and the teachers and counselors all get together and they make sure that student is taken care of. So again, thank you for everybody for coming in tonight. You don't have to leave, you can stay. Now we're going to move on into some newer business here. So
Superintendent.
oh yes, right, you got to speak. You ready?
You bet. Thank you. So I wanted to talk real quick about the bond. We had bond work being done at Crater Elementary, CV Middle, Mountain View Middle, Ewan Young, Edwards, Catalyst, and the high school. And they all opened on time. And if you would have been there on Labor Day weekend, you probably would have thought there's no way it's going to happen. But they opened on time. And so I wanted to publicly thank Casey Cunningham. He's with Cornerstone, and he's our liaison with all of the builders. Also Cornerstone, 5 Star, Brick, Ross Builders, Partech Construction, Skanska, and Pence. They all did a great job, and I appreciate them, their work, their overtime. Bottom line is they got us open for business on last Tuesday, and that's awesome. Next thing I want to talk about real quick is STA. They were just here. You heard from them. I think it's fair to say no one's happy. We've received a lot of calls, emails, phone calls. I don't do social media, but from what I understand, social media has had a good time. And they wanted us to fire STA yesterday. I just want you to think about, if STA was fired yesterday, who drives the kids tomorrow? The Newburgh Public Schools, we don't own buses. We don't employ drivers currently. So it would take weeks and weeks to get someone back to fill that gap. So it is a tough situation, and there isn't any real simple answers to it. And as I told STA, I've apologized countless times and I felt extremely hopeless. That I can't fix it. But I think I think we heard from STA, they do have a plan. I think they are realistic that it's not going to turn over overnight. But I have faith that they'll fix it. Another thing I wanted to mention was volunteers. We're open for volunteers. Parents want to get back into our buildings. Wonderful. Contact your building principal. Contact the district office and we'll work with them to be able to be volunteers in our buildings again. I think that's extremely important to have parents back in the buildings. Parents in classrooms, seeing what's going on and working with their kids. Staffing issues. Yes, we have staffing issues. We've lost a lot. We've hired a lot, and we still have plenty of openings. We're not unique. There's openings all over the state. OPB wrote an article the other day talking about all the openings, and it is rampant. Is it fair to say Newburgh is worse than others? I think so. I absolutely think so. But we're not alone. So we are still hiring, still recruiting. The last thing I'll mention is there was some social media post that was screenshot and sent to me that I was being accused of toxic positivity. I've never heard of such a thing, but I'll take it. It's something I work on all the time, is trying to be more positive. And that doesn't mean I try to ignore the negative. It doesn't mean I ignore the problems. It means I tend to look towards the positive. I try to be a glass half full kind of guy. And so I guess I would suggest that it's a compliment for me to be accused of being toxically positive. I plan to continue to do so. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, we move into the consent agenda right now, and there's new hires, resignations. And so again, it's part of the whole consent agenda. I'll just say, the list, we have an accepted probationary license contract for several people, and then the accept licensed teacher resignations. This is something we do all the time out there. Has to be voted on by the board to make it official. And also then we have one of our administrators, Ann Zeal, Director of Special Programs, has resigned, and her replacement will be announced soon. So with that said, I'm going to move in. We always love to get to read this one. It's the donations coming from different people in the public. And sometimes they're part of an organization, but we like to make sure they get recognized for their generosity. The first donation is $1,250, which is a ton of money, from the Lowy Marsh Memorial Reading Fund in the amount of $1,250. And so we'd like to publicly thank them very much for that. Reading is definitely going to be a higher priority as we move forward for all of our students. The second donation of $4,000 is from the Newburgh Charitable Organization to be used in the resource rooms for public supplies. I'm sure most of you guys are aware, if you get into the public, our public schools, our resource rooms have really blossomed into something pretty special. And our students have access to get in there and get not only clothing, but school supplies, even food. And it's great. It's a place where they can go. It's usually as big as a full-size classroom. And there's some great stuff in there for our students to have access to. There's no strings attached, and it's all done by volunteers with some great people, and with generous donations like this from the Newburgh Charitable Organization. And then the last thing would be the approval of the work session from 8/27 on our minutes. So that is our consent agenda there.
Mr. Chair, I move that the Newburgh School District Board of Directors approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, call the vote. All those in favor of the consent agenda, please raise your right hand. Consent agenda passes 7-0. All right, reports and presentations, Dr. Phillips.
So in your packet, you'll see a sheet entitled Oregon Hospitality Foundation. This is an award, a grant that was awarded to our culinary arts teacher in her program at the high school, Mrs. Jane Eilert. The document here doesn't tell you how much she was awarded, but she was awarded $2,000 for her culinary arts program. So it's a great award. It's really neat to support those kids. Culinary arts is a career and tech ed program, and $2,000 goes a long way in helping that program and serve kids better. So
That's for Jane Howard.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep. So I wanted just to make that known that it's a really positive thing for our kids at high school.
Just so everybody knows, Jane Eilert's a longtime educator in our district, does a fantastic job in that area. So I'm sure she's elated to get that. So thanks for sharing that. Backing up one step, I just want to make sure on that for the resource rooms, $500 went to Salem Valley. $500 went to Mountain View, also to Joanne Austin, to Crater Elementary, to Dundee Elementary, and to Ewing Young Elementary. So that's where that amount of dollars went to. So great. Thanks, Dr. Phillips. Old business. We have something came up with our board superintendent agreement. This is to the board. Just letting you guys know here. There are 15 line items on here, if you see that in there. And number 15, it says children's interests come first. The board will represent the needs and interests of all the children in our district. And like number 1, for example, is don't spring surprises. And I think we need to move 15 to 1 on this. It's a technicality, but it's an important one because, you know, we've made that commitment to children's interests to come first. So it kind of seems odd to have that number 15 and it should be number 1. So I don't think we need to vote on that. Does anybody have any comments on that? It's kind of a thing where we'll just move that to number 1 and we'll move everything down to 2, 3 on down. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So kind of an important one. Okay, got that. Any more on that?
I think it's great.
Okay. New business communication firm.
Yeah, and this is an action item. Last week, was it last week? Yes, it was last week. We had an interview for our new our new communication firm. Interviewed 2 different firms, and the interview committee, which was made of Scott Lindenberger, Heather Bixby, and Martha. They interviewed and they chose B&B Communications to be our communication firm for starting October 1st and going till June 30th. So that contract and just as you know, we were already employed with them, and we heard from enough community members that they wanted us to open it up again. So we opened it up, did a formal RFP, and then we interviewed those. Well, I didn't interview, but the two firms were interviewed. B&B was chosen. So we already have B&B, but we're continuing with B&B for the rest of the year.
There's a we don't vote.
You would vote on it to accept the contract, which is the exact same contract they had before.
We can do that tonight. Okay.
Do we have that to look at? Because I don't see that in our package.
No, I think you're right. I can get it. We could break and I could run and get it.
Okay.
And then we could move that down if you'd like.
Sure, let's do that. Everybody can read that.
Yeah.
So we'll do that. We'll move that one down. Next item on there is the future agenda items. Cornerstone Group presentation. You want to speak to that?
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, when I was thanking the all the people that were working on the bond. Casey Cunningham is with Cornerstone and he's our construction, our bond representative, and he plans to be at our October 11th board meeting to present the bond and its status to this point, budget points and timelines, and just give you an update on the bond.
Good.
Yeah, pretty typical.
Challenge the board to be ready, read through that really well. It'd be a great time to, after we got through the summer, to get any questions you have answered, Mr. Cunningham, at that next meeting. So sound good? Okay. Well, we'll take a quick break here and then let you go get that, if that's okay.
Yep, perfect. Thank you.
Tabitha, we will take a 5-minute break.
this is the same.
Yes, it is the same.
Other than the dates.
Dr. Shannon, I'll let you make that motion if you're okay with it.
Would rather not, actually.
Okay. Mr. Perkins. You can make the motion. That's you, right? Okay, we're back on. So. Everybody's had a chance to look through that. Any questions?
Now that we are on the record, I want to make sure that this.
You want to call us back?
Yeah, call it order.
We're back in session. Thank you very much.
Now that we are back in session, I want to make sure that on the record that this is the same contract that was published with other board documentation previously, other than the dates of effectivity. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay. And that has been reviewed by
Legal, yes.
legal, et cetera. Okay, thank you. So I will move that Newburgh District, Newburgh School District Board of Directors approve entering into this contract with Bridge and Bolster LLC.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more questions?
I do have one thing I want to talk about. You know, one of the things that they're doing for us, they say, is they're gonna create a TikTok account and grow it. And I understand social media and you got to be hip and all with the kids and meet them where they are, right? But I mean, TikTok has been flagged as by the US government as essentially being a Chinese surveillance device. And so I don't really like the idea of encouraging its adoption or use. Could we strike that and have everything without the TikTok part of it?
I'm sure we could, yeah.
And also, I would like to just kind of, I know there's been some people that don't have social media, and where can they view, like some of your videos that you have had on there? I believe that we are working to get that on our website.
Yeah, and we are working towards, we're actually going to be in the process of meeting with several different website providers, vendors, to try to find a new one and to revamp our website. And so all of those things will be channeled to the website.
Okay.
It's a work in progress. It's definitely not something that you can do overnight, but it's something we're working on.
Okay.
Yep.
So in the meantime, for those who are concerned about or wanting to watch some of those videos or whatever, I do believe you can watch them also through YouTube. And you just have to put in a search engine of the school district's videos and stuff, and you can watch them on YouTube as well.
So moving forward on what Director Shannon's comment on 1.5. Under that second line there for Facebook, Twitter, and then TikTok. Do we need to strike that now?
If that's,
So, sorry, I think that would be 1.1.4.
Yeah.
There's two spots where TikTok is mentioned, I believe.
yeah, so we can strike 114. And then on the second page, we can strike Twitter out of 152. What about TikTok?
TikTok.
Oh, I don't care so much about Twitter. I mean,
It was
I have my
mostly-
problems with Twitter, but TikTok specifically
Sorry, you did
is
say
my
TikTok.
concern.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, TikTok. Yes, got it. Okay, we'll redraft this.
Thank you.
Perfect. We're gonna accept that next week.
Well, you can,
You want us to vote on as amended?
yeah, you can vote it as amended.
I move that the Newburgh School District Board of Directors approve the contract with Bridge and Bolster for communication services as amended.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of that, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0. All right. I believe we have a meeting. So with that said, we do have a couple, I talked to a few people about sound. We'll talk about that afterwards as far as, you know, getting that fixed maybe for next board meeting with our tech guy. So with that, meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.